do-it-yourselfers, I'm back, and I'm no longer a fat ass. I'll be doing a video on that soon. But today we're going to go over, is your pool leaking, and how can you figure that out? We'll go over some steps that the pros take, maybe even be able to show you how to fix it yourself before you have to call in the pros. Alright, step one, if you think you have a leak, come and inspect your equipment. You want to check all the places where there's a joint, make sure, run your finger underneath it, make sure you don't see anything dripping. You have a backwash valve on a sand filter, maybe you have a cartridge filter with a discharge, a sand and DE filters, a lot of times you'll have a backwash valve, which will be tied to one of these. There's gaskets inside of these that sometimes leak. Make sure you don't have water that's coming out of here that you don't actually know about because the hose is down at the end. And then also inspect underneath all your fittings, all where your seal areas are on the pump. You have a shaft seal that's inside of here that can start leaking. You'll usually see some kind of wetness on the slab or whatever underneath it. Look inside the pump housing and see if you're seeing bubbles. That's usually an indication of a suction leak. Shut your pump off, take the lid off, take the basket out, and look in the bottom and see if you can see sand in the bottom of the pump. That's usually an indication that you've got a suction side leak and you're drawing in sand. Once you're certain all that's done, then we move on to step two, visual inspection of the pool. Alright, next step is to have a look around your pool. This is a gunite pool, it's a very old one. There's obviously some physical damage here, believe it or not. This damage is not where the leak is. I've already found the leak on this pool, and I'm going to show you how to fix that and find it. But just walk around and make sure that you're not seeing any cracks in the pool, anything new that looks like something's shifted or moved like that. Like here, that would definitely be an area that you would want to check, on these broken tiles and things like that. Well, the other thing is you want to go around and you want to check for any new cracking in the decks. You want to walk around, especially like your equipment area, see if you feel any spongy areas in the dirt, or you see any noticeable wet spots anywhere. Anywhere that you see deck settling, things of that nature, those can be indications of a leak. Step number three, where we've got some suspect areas that we want to check later on. Now we got to make sure that we are actually having a leak and not experiencing evaporation. Anyone that says that there's a rule of thumb of a quarter inch a day is totally wrong. There's so many things that contribute to evaporation. I'll cover that at the end of the video. But the infamous bucket test, tried and true measure of whether or not you have a leak in the pool, is going to differentiate that. All you need is a bucket, any kind of bucket. You just want to make sure you can get the water in it, set it on the top step, and you have a place to mark it on the top. And you want to have a little more water in the bucket than the water level in the pool. Some people try to make the water level the same. It really doesn't matter. All you're doing is marking levels, and we'll show you that now. Set your bucket, give the water a minute to relax, and what we're going to do, you can use either a pencil, a waterproof marker, a grease pen, or even duct tape, and you're going to mark the water line where the pool water is meeting the bucket, and you're going to mark the inside of the bucket where the water line is in there. The idea behind it is you set it, I like to set them at night after the pump shuts off. Set it at night, mark both levels, let the pump turn on next day, check at the same time the next day, 24 hours later, record your difference. You're probably going to have a little bit of loss on both sides. If you have more on the pool side than in the bucket side, then it's a pretty good indication that you have a leak. After that, you want to shut the breaker off to the pump, and then the next day you want to let the pump not run at all. And you want to see if you have more loss when the pump is off, which will indicate a suction leak. Or if you're losing more water when the pump is on, then that means that you have a return leak. And if you're losing the same amount of water both sides, it means there's something structural. Or if you have a light in the pool, it could be leaking out of the light. So we go ahead and do that right now. Just dry off an area on there, dry off an area here. We make a mark as close as we can. On the outside of the bucket. Come here on the inside. And we'll do the same. I'll grab the camera in a minute and show you a little closer how we got those marks on there. And that's it. Set it at night after the pump turns off. Hopefully you have some light that you can see what you're doing. Run the pump normal next day. Check at the same time the following evening. Shut the breaker off. Don't let the pump run the next day. Check at the same time in the evening. Calculate your difference. And once you see that what it is, you can take it from there. More loss when pump's not running, suction leak. More loss when pump's running, return leak. Same amount of loss no matter what, some kind of structural issue or leak in the light. Now we'll move on to finding the leak and fixing it. Here's our mark in the bucket. I am a little bit off on that because the water was still moving slightly. So just measure that difference. And there's our mark there. It's a little bit better right at the water line. So if you get the mark off because the water is moving, just check what your difference is on the from the mark to the water, and that's all you need to do. Okay, now that we've gone through our bucket test, we've done a visual inspection of all the equipment area, and we've determined that there's something going on inside of the pool, and we've figured out some suspect areas we want to investigate. You're going to want to get a dye test. This is the one I use. I'll leave links to all of this stuff because yes, there's a small chance that I might get a fraction of $1 for if you buy this stuff for sharing 30 years of experience. But this I'm not going to be using today because I haven't used it in a while and it got hard. So what I will be using is JB Weld water weld. I've used it before when I couldn't find the other stuff. It seems to work well. It holds up. For years since I've used it, I haven't had any complaints. But I'll leave links to all of this stuff. If you are in Florida and you have a light in your pool, 7 out of 10 times you're going to find a leak in your light. So you'll want to get some butyl tape. Comes in a box. It's again from Leakmaster. But you'll want to pull the light out, and hopefully you can hold your breath for long enough to pull that light out and take the dye and just squirt it right next to where the light goes through, the cord goes through the back of the light niche, and see if the dye is getting sucked into there. And then basically all you do is you take some of this off, this black stuff, and you're going to wad it around that cord right where it goes through that cable or that conduit. And you're going to push it in there and you're going to smush it all out with your finger and make sure it looks like it's sealed up all the way around. Might have to take a couple breaths to do it, but it can be done. Another thing that you're going to want to do is get a inspection mirror. Use this to go around like all the bottom sides of your returns that are any protrusion that's coming into the pool that you can't really see from the top. Using an inspection mirror underneath that while you're spraying the dye will allow you to see if it's getting drawn in. If you've never done a dye test before, These plastic syringes can get a little sticky. You can pick these up at your local pool store, but if you've never done it before, get a couple of them, because when these things get sticky, it can look like a squid just ran away. But the nice thing about having the refill is you just take your straw, you put it in there, and then open up the top. You can just stick the straw right in there and you can fill it right back up. Okay. The way I prefer to hold these is, you don't want to do that. That's where you really lose control. Usually what I do is I will use my thumb and forefinger. I'll kind of rock that on my pinky, and I'll use that to slowly guide the plunger, and you should see some of that dye start to come up the straw, so that you can slowly control where the dye is going. Some areas that's going to be uncomfortable, but that's how you do it. We're going to get into the pool. I'm going to show you how it works and how to fix the hole. Alright, so I've got my syringe here with the little tube on it. I'm going to show you first where it's not leaking, what it looks like. Alright, so you can see there, nothing's happening with the dye. It's just kind of floating in the water. And back here, you would think that that's leaking because there's grout missing all over there. But now back here, we run this dye test, and you can see it's drawing it right into the crack. Okay, see that? That's how you know there's a leak there. See that? All right. So, okay, now we want to take our epoxy, whichever epoxy you're using. Probably better to use some latex gloves or something, but just pinch off what you think you're going to need, and if you don't have enough, it's not a problem. Take the two-part epoxy, let your hands knead it together until it's all a uniform color. And once that's all set, I usually like to roll it up into like a little noodle. And we're going to place it right in here. So we're going to go past where we need to repair. And we're going to just start tucking it in. Tucking it in the hole. Tucking it in. Tucking it in. And this pool is actually a little bit overfilled, so I don't need to worry too much about going all the way up, but I will get a little bit more here in a minute. So you can also pull some from down below. Okay. Once you're satisfied that you've got it all filled in, you want to take from the center of it and just pull it back with your finger. Push it this way with your other, in the other direction. Make sure you're covering anywhere that it's cracked. So get that done. Okay, then we can take our dye and just double check and make sure that we fix the leak. And we'll see. Ooh, that got a little exciting there. Alright, so you see it's not being drawn in anymore, it's just kind of floating there and sagging away. It's all good. You could do something with just food coloring and water if you needed to, if you had like a thing for injecting spices in the meat or whatever, or even just something as simple as like a syringe for giving medicine to babies.
could mix just some basic food coloring and water. The only problem is that it kind of tends to dissipate a lot quicker, so you don't have as much working time. This stuff's specially formulated to kind of hang in the water and give you time to look at it and see what's going on.
All right, as I said at the end of the video, I'm going to go over evaporation. So basically, you have energy in the water, there's molecules. As things get heated up and there's different things going on, molecules get released. Eventually enough get released that it actually creates a humid layer over the top, kind of like a blanket that'll slow or stop the evaporation. So depending on the temperature of the day, you can swing widely on what it is. If you have waterfalls, if you have a lot of upward movement on the water, like if you have your returns pointed up because you like to see the water move, that's going to break that cloud layer and it will increase evaporation. Any waterfall, anywhere where water is falling through the air, it's going to vaporize a little bit quicker. So another part of the bucket test, which I forgot to say in the beginning part, is make sure you shut off your autofill. If you have an autofill that's automatically putting water into your pool, make sure that is off, and make sure all your water features are off. And then if you had to, you could do a third day where you actually do the water features, and you could actually calculate if you're losing a lot more just by running them water features. It could be a leak in the water feature itself, or that is just a price you have to pay for having something that's beautiful. If it's a windy day, it's going to blow that humid layer off of there. I have pools, we service a lot of pools. We have some that seem like they just never lose water, and we have others that'll literally lose a ½ inch in a day. So there really is no rule of thumb, a 1/4 inch. If it's less than a 1/4 inch, you're good. A leak is a leak no matter what it is. I hope you found this helpful, and if you know anyone that could possibly use it, feel free to share the video, like and subscribe. We'll be doing a lot of stuff, including how I became not a badass anymore. God bless you. Have a great day.